We have a studio full of distinguished guests. We're going to put it like that, gentlemen. How about that? We have Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Sean Tindell. How you doing today, Commissioner?
Doing great. Great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here.
Yeah, you know, it's it looks like we got another storm coming. Hey, it's 2020, so it's another day in paradise, so they say.
Well, and it's infringing on your home territory down on the coast this time.
It is. It is. My daughter goes to a different school than my son, and that school got out today, and he was highly upset that he didn't get out as well. So he was pleased to know that he would get out early this afternoon. But
sometimes you just got to wait for things to develop. You know, you can't get too upset about it. And joining us here as well, Colonel with the Mississippi Highway Patrol, Randy Ginn. How are you?
Very well, sir. How are you?
Doing fine, Colonel. Now, gentlemen, this is a big week because we're coming up on the deadline for applications for the next patrol school. And we talk about this all the time, how important the patrol school is, because if you don't have the men out there, if you don't have the boots on the ground, it makes it a lot harder to get the job done.
Absolutely, it does, and we see that with the storm coming in that we're talking about. We have some troopers who are already moved forward, besides our troopers that are in Troop K and Troop J that are looking at the storm come. So we have to cancel days off. We put extra people in those places to make sure that we're able to give the assistance that the local agencies and that the public needs and expects from the Highway Patrol.
Now, let me ask you this. It is important to get those numbers up, but we were talking just before we went on the air. You want to do that without sacrificing the quality, because that's the entire point. The point that I made was, look, when you're a Mississippi Highway Patrolman and you're out there and something happens, and trust me, if something happens, that's the first person you're going to call is a Highway Patrolman. Backup's 20, 30 minutes away. You've got to be the best of the best to handle that, Commissioner.
Well, that's exactly right. And I can tell you coming in, and I've discussed it everywhere I went when I met with troopers across the state. Of course, I don't have a law enforcement background. I've got a business background. I've got a legal background. But I met with the colonel early on and said, look, it's not my job to train them. That's not my area of expertise. That's y'all's area of expertise. What I'd like to see us do is get more highway patrolmen, better graduation rates, but not sacrifice any quality. And if anything, let's improve the quality. And because they are out on the road and they are on an island, and those skills that they need are very unique. And in some instances, they've got to be developed, and that's what trooper schools and patrol schools about. And I know Colonel Ginn and Colonel Captain Perkins are working really hard to put together a program that's going to do exactly that.
And Colonel, the thing is, and a lot of people hear these stories about patrol school, about how, it's a horrible thing. It's the hardest thing in the world to go through. I've heard that my entire life. And there's some truth to that, but there's a reason for it because, you're not going to put it this way, I'm going to put it this way. If you can be run off in the first week, you don't have what it takes. I'm just going to put it just that bluntly, Colonel.
Well, it is very difficult in a lot of ways because it's unknown when you walk in the door. There's no way to describe it to you what it is. It just is the hardest thing, and you can ask any trooper or anybody that's been through it. It's the hardest school is their school because it's your perspective and you lived it. But we are doing things, as the commissioner said, to try to prepare our applicants better. We've set out during this class with we have a lot more recruiters out there. We have about 25 troopers that are recruiting. We're taking the approach that we don't just recruit them through the application process. Those recruiters will stay in the game with those applicants all the way through the process, talking to them, preparing them, checking in with them, see if they're preparing themselves. We're offering an opportunity. And we've got people that say they want to take that opportunity. We want to give them the best opportunity to succeed in that challenge that they'll face when they get to patrol school.
Well, and I can tell you, and one of the things that we've been doing, and the director of the patrol school's been very influential with that, as well as Major Polis, who's our PAO, on beforehand doing some training programs with the various troops, trying to get these cadets before they arrive in certain condition, both physically and mentally, so that when they get there, we know they're going to make it through the first week because they've gotten a taste of it. And so if they're going to leave, I want them to leave before they even get there. And in that way, we're not wasting our time and resources on those that just don't have what it takes to even get through the initial phase.
Exactly. In your opinion, Colonel, as somebody who went through patrol school, which one's more important, the physical or the mental?
I think both are important, but I think in the end, the mental ability to prove that you can handle the stress, handle the pressure, and convince yourself and to come to the realization in yourself that if you don't quit, if you push, and if you work, you'll be able to make it through whatever challenge. And the greatest challenge you ever have at that point is patrol school. But once you get out, like you said, in law enforcement today, no one knows what's coming on the next traffic stop or the next call, so you have to be prepared mentally and thinking ahead. What am I going to do if this happens? What's this scenario look like? And I think that mental aspect of the law enforcement profession today is so important, because if you're not prepared mentally, your body is not going to be able to function at the highest level that you need it to.
Well, and this year especially, because we've seen all of the uproar and the conversation, and I use that term extremely loosely when I call it a conversation, regarding law enforcement around the nation. We haven't had as much of that type of problem in Mississippi because, I'm just going to be honest, in my opinion, we have better people, but that is still lingering out there. That's something that still is hanging over your head. And there's not really much you can do to combat that, is there, Commissioner?
Well, I think there is. You know, in today's world, we all have media stations at our fingertips, and that's social media, and that's one of the things that we're looking to do is redirect and rebrand and make sure people understand that the Mississippi Highway Patrol and the Department of Public Safety is a model law enforcement agency, and one in which, if you look at what we've done historically and you look at what we've done just here recently, when it came to the protests and the riots, not only did we protect our communities, and we were there. I mean, we had MBI agents on the team, we had SOG teams on the scene, we had SWAT, and they were there, but everything was peaceful and calm, and the communities were protected, and the First Amendment rights of those that wanted to protest were protected. And I think it's so indicative of the high caliber of individuals that we have at the Department of Public Safety, and particularly Mississippi Highway Patrol. And the job they did was, quite frankly, amazing compared to what you saw happening in other states. And so I was really pleased with that, and I think it's an opportunity for us to control our own narrative as law enforcement about what we do and the great things that we do and how we protect and serve our communities.
Colonel, I got another question for you. I'm giving you all the hard questions, Colonel. Sorry about that in advance. We've done the scare job here. We've talked about how hard patrol school is and how difficult it is to make it through to the end and make it to that graduation ceremony, which is probably the proudest day of a lot of their lives when they reach that graduation ceremony. Now's your opportunity to do the sales job. There's somebody listening right now that would make a stellar officer with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. We've heard the bad, the scary part. Why would they want to make that choice? Why do they want to become a part of the Mississippi Highway Patrol?
Well, I think it comes down again to opportunities. And the opportunities, once you join this agency, are limitless. And the first opportunity you have is an opportunity to make a difference. To make a difference right where you are, the community you live in, the friends, the family, and the people that you serve in Mississippi. And the Commissioner's right. We've got an agency that's chock full of good people. But Mississippi is a chock full of good people who love their law enforcement and who expect us to be there when they need us. And that's the first thing. It's an opportunity to make a difference. But then once you get in the patrol, there are so many avenues that a young person can take over a career that spans 25 or 30 years, however long it is. And those opportunities are from MBI and for making a difference in rescuing a child who has been abducted or a child that's caught up in human trafficking, and to take part in narcotics eradication processes through interdiction or through working with MBN, as well as the SOG team, the SWAT team, air operations, dive team. We have people that do drones or reconstructing accidents and crimes. The list goes on and on of the opportunities, and all it takes to have those opportunities is to get your foot in the door, graduate from patrol school, and then that opens up the keys to the world.
And this week is the last week to do it for this patrol school. We'll continue talking about it with Commissioner Sean Tindell and Colonel Randy Ginn here on Commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Public Safety, Sean Tindell, and Colonel Randy Ginn with the Mississippi Highway Patrol School. Now, we were discussing what is the actual deadline to get their application in to participate in this next patrol school.
It's Saturday, October 31st. It has to be postmarked by that date. And I want to say at last count, we were just over 300 applications. So we're hoping we'll get up to over 400. There's always that last-minute rush. And so, considering what's been going on, considering COVID, considering, my gosh, I was talking to the governor earlier this week, and I think we've had 9 or 10 nationally declared disasters in Mississippi this year. The previous record was like 3. So, I mean, it's been 2020.
And I hate to say this, but the day's not over, Commissioner. We could add another one to it before it's done with here today, I'm afraid. Now, the thing that everybody needs to remember, you're talking about 300 to 400 applicants. Not everybody gets in because you go through those and pick the best of the best to go into the school. How many will be selected?
Well, we're not 100% sure because there is a selection process that is done. In which certain tests are taken, and they'll initially qualify. But if they don't meet certain standards as they're going through, both physically and educational wise, they will not be selected for that cadet class. And then they will be ranked based upon how they answer a series of questions. There's a psychological component to make sure that everybody's given a fair chance, whether, race and sex, all that's taken out of the equation, and we're trying to get the best candidates. And it's kind of a blind test, if you will, that gives us our list and ranks them, and then we'll go from there and pick the best and start the patrol school. I'd like to get as many as we can in there that are qualified. That's my goal, and I've talked to the colonel about it, and everybody I talk to, I want to see us get back over 600 patrolmen. And it's been a long time since we've been at that number, and that's my goal, that we get there. And we're talking earlier about the sales pitch on doing this, and the colonel's absolutely right. It's a career full of opportunities to grow both personally and professionally. Opportunities are abound. MBI, you can be an investigator, dive team, air operations. We have pilots. We've got positions at Homeland Security dealing with the Fusion Center, where we need people with a certain technological knowledge. And so, there's all kinds of opportunity. And if you want to be part of the solution, you need to really take a look. If you're a young person, you want to be part of the solution. If you're a middle-aged person and you want to be part of the solution, put an application in. This is an opportunity to advance yourself and also benefit your state and your community. And we want to see you here. We want to see you a part of our team. And we're excited about the direction it's going. But we need those good folks on board.
And to kind of paraphrase something that's been said already, you do get to make a difference. You get to get up and go to work. And when you get off and you go home, know that you've actually done something and you've contributed and you've helped people, because at the root of it, that's what it's all about, Colonel, is helping people.
That's exactly right. We're a service organization, and that's our part of our motto: courtesy, service, and safety. And that's what we promote. That's what we want to do. And we do have that satisfaction at the end of the day that, hey, I made a difference, because that little girl that was in the convenience store next to me that said hello to me, I got to talk to her. Or that elderly couple that didn't know where they were going, I helped them get there. Helped somebody change a tire, or I took somebody off the road that was a danger to themselves or to the public. I made a difference today just by being somewhere doing what I was doing.
And I think the problem that crops up in this discussion is a lot of times people view the Highway Patrol as those jerks that keep writing me tickets. Well, number one, if you'd slow down, they wouldn't be able to keep writing you tickets, so that's on you. But aside from that, even that is helping people, because if you get that traffic under control and you keep it under control, that saves lives.
It certainly does, and we see that over the last few years, the fatality numbers have remained at a not an acceptable level, but they've decreased over time, and a lot of factors go into that. And certainly, the presence of law enforcement, state, local, and county law enforcement, visible and present, giving that assurance and that deterrent to any type of crime that would be on the highway or anywhere that we're at, promotes that safety and does keep our society as safe and gives us the opportunities to move about freely like everybody wants to do and expects to be able to do.
Quick change of subject, just going to put you completely on the spot here, Commissioner. Initiative 65, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a lot of dangers to it. I can tell you, and we were out at the crime lab with Congressman Guest, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were going through the lab and looking at some of the items that had been seized. In particular, it caught my attention was the drugs that have been seized to look like candy. I mean, they're literally in candy wrappers. They look like Fruit Loops. And there is no kid in this state that wouldn't pick it up, open it, and eat it if they found it laying on the street, on the counter, or in a public area. And if we're not careful, that's what's going to be out there. And I can tell you, it might look like a candy shop, but it's not. It's narcotics, and it's going to have a very, very, very bad impact on our young people if it's not regulated. It's no different than when you think back to the 70s and 80s when I was a kid. They had the cigarettes that look like or the candy that looked like cigarettes, and that's how they were drawing them in early to that lifestyle. And that's exactly the same thing that's going to be going on here if we're not careful. And when you put it in the Constitution, I can tell you, from my legal background, my time on the court, all of a sudden that becomes a right. And changing it and modifying it to meet the changing times is going to be very difficult. And, it's something that I'm confident the legislature will take up. It's something they should take up, but they will do it in a manner that protects the people of this state. I've got great fear that putting it in the Constitution, it's going to open up a Pandora's box that's going to be very, very difficult to put it back in.
Well, it's going to be almost impossible to change because it's going to take another initiative vote to make a change to it, even if you realize there should be a comma in this section in this sentence. Now, you can't just go put that in.
Well, and a prime example, and I know y'all been talking about it all day, was the petition filed by the city of Madison. And you look at what happens. The Constitution was written in a form that was dealing with time when we had 5 congressional districts. Now we have 4, and it's difficult to change the Constitution. We hadn't even been able to change that, and it's been 17 years. So when you put this in, you need to be thinking about what happens as times change.
Yeah, exactly. It's not easy to get into it and go a year down the road and go, oh, wait, no, that was a mistake. Well, it's too late. You're committed now. And that just is going to lead to a problem, a lot of problems, but for law enforcement as well. We've been talking to law enforcement officers. It's going to make it almost impossible to enforce some of the drug laws.
Well, and especially the way that they've been written. And then you still got federal law. And I know for an absolute fact, and I've sent it on to Senator Hill and others, when you go to fill out an application for a firearm permit, one of the questions is if you use any illegal narcotics, including marijuana. And there's a warning that says it doesn't matter if it's legal in your state, you still cannot purchase this firearm if you're using marijuana. So, if people get these cards, it could have an effect on other things.
Short way to put it in my book, it's a mess.
Absolutely.
It's going to be an enormous mess. You've got until the end of the week to get your application in. What's the process? How do they apply to be a part of this trooper school, Colonel?
They can go by any Highway Patrol substation and pick up an application, or they can go to the DPS website and click on the link to the application. They can fill the application out online. It's a writable PDF, and then print that out and get it into our Human Resources office there at headquarters. Either mail it into the address, or if they're in the area and want to hand deliver it, they can hand deliver it. But it's a simple process.
Now, you can't hand deliver it to any of the troop locations, right? It's just the main headquarters.
That's correct. It needs to come to headquarters to Human Resources.
So just drop it in the mail. If it's postmarked by Saturday, you're good.
Yes, sir.
And they'll take a look at it. Not that hard. Not that hard to take that first step, and that's the most important one because none of the rest of them happen if you don't take that first one. It's good that there's a lot of attention being given to making sure that you've got folks that know what they're getting into because that's a lot of times the conversation. We've talked about it. And it's good that we're going to get a school full of people that are raring to go and they know why they're there and they know what's going to happen because usually it's a pretty small percentage of the ones that make it to the trooper school that actually graduate. And I know you're trying to get that number up, Commissioner.
Well, we're working on it. I think the number's been around 50%, and our goal is to get it up, and we're working on that. And I think, again, to the extent we're not sacrificing any quality, I know when I got married, my wife and I had to go to some counseling before we got married, and the churches started implementing that in the goal to help save marriages because it's a lifetime decision, and we want people to know when they decide to become a trooper, it's a lifetime decision, and you need to be committed to it.
Commissioner Sean Tindell, Colonel Randy Ginn, we appreciate your time today. And keep up the good work. Let us know how it's going, okay? Keep us updated on this.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome back anytime, sir, anytime.